And now, a conversation with the mayor of Washington, D.C., Muriel Bowser, and reporter for the Washington Post, Michael Bryce Sadler.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Mayor.
Hi, how are you? It's great.
Doing well. So over the past few years, mayors have found themselves increasingly at the center of major crises, whether that be global conflicts from Ukraine to Israel, to global pandemics. Here in the district and many other cities, one of the biggest challenges with pandemic recovery has been how to resurrect downtown corridors. Workers have been slow to return to their offices, and that challenge is especially unique in DC because we have so many federal workers downtown. So Mayor Bowser, when you talk about DC's pandemic recovery, why is there such an emphasis on downtown?
Well, first, let me say we're in a beautiful downtown facility here at Johns Hopkins University. So we want to welcome Johns Hopkins to our wonderful university community and our wonderful downtown. So thank you, Johns Hopkins. And I think it's important when we talk about global capitals like ours that we talk about their vibrancy. And we know that downtowns are the heart of any community. And they're also the commercial heart of the community. And that's especially true for us in Washington, D.C. There are 185,000 jobs downtown, and the downtown's economy, especially its property values, really drive what we're able to do in the city. So when I talk about making sure we have a vibrant and growing and thriving downtown, I'm also saying that we need to continue the historic investments that we've made in public education, because it's those values that allow us to make those investments. When I say we have to make sure that we have our jobs and businesses downtown, it also means that we can make tremendous investments in some of the initiatives that allow us to provide every Washingtonian with a fair shot. And then I'm talking about our homeless services programs, I'm talking about our Black home ownership program, and I'm talking about making the wards in our city that have been separated and underinvested in, making sure that they can also thrive. But the downtown drives the revenues that allow us to make those investments.
You talked a bit about those commercial properties and how important that is to our economy. The CFO last month noted that office vacancies by 2026 might reach 25% in the city. That's a big hit. So what's your plan, what's your strategy to mitigate that vacancy percentage?
Well, I don't know that that's where we're going to be in 2026. What I know is where we are today. And standing here or sitting here this October, what the CFO did, he had to upgrade his estimate just from February, where the view was very pessimistic about where we would be, not only in vacancy, but in revenue. And what that upgrade is allowing us to do is kind of rethink those out years and accelerate, in some cases, the investments that we make to make sure that what we think is a very pessimistic outlook for 2026 won't actually be realized.
Right. And those federal workers that I mentioned, you've talked about it a lot, that the city can't necessarily rely on those workers to come back to the office. Has there been any momentum on that front, talking with the White House about getting federal workers back?
For sure, and I think most people know that we're different in Washington, D.C., and we are a city, county, state all at once. I'm a mayor, county executive, and almost governor also. We're blocks from the capital of the United States of America, yet we don't have any voting representation. Did you hear me? I mean, our congresswoman can't vote, and we don't have 2 senators. So we're unique. Now, there are some good things about being that special, and one is that the mayor, county executive, governor, me, and 13 council members make the decisions for our $20 billion budget for 700,000 people. So that relatively flat structure allows us to move quickly and to pivot quickly. And what I have tasked all of our agencies to do is focus on our 5-year economic development strategy. Just this week, I had the opportunity to name a new leader of our economic development efforts, and she's here, Nina Albert. Thank you, Nina. Nina comes to us from the federal government, where she was the Public Buildings Commissioner, and brings a wealth of experience and knowledge about how we can reposition some of our buildings. This was what every mayor here knows, is that we're not going to go back to 2019. So our downtowns won't be exactly the same. Hybrid work is likely here to stay, but it is. This is the new way of work. And so what we have done in our economic development strategy is certainly focus and set some pretty big goals for the downtown, including adding 15,000 residents and investing in a pretty aggressive commercial to housing conversion program. And it's working. We know that we have 22 properties in various stages of conversion in the city right now. One thing that we learned from this pandemic is our downtown is too commercial heavy. Almost 90% of the space is dedicated to commercial space. Even in our neighborhoods in the district that have more commercial and a better balance between commercial and residential, fared much better during the pandemic. So we're really focused on how we bring more people downtown to live. And look at different ways of repurposing our properties. Now, I had a kind of a spicy message to the president in my inaugural address in January. It was the third one, so you get a little bit spicier, I think. But what I said to the president, and it's a direct message, but also one that needed to be said, was that we need the federal government to rethink its properties and either have a purposeful plan for conversions or let us do it. Right. Turn them over to us and we'll figure it out. Now here, it's great that we're in this building because we have some spaces, and leases are one thing, I'll put them to the side. But we have some buildings. Now our city is a capital city built on the L'Enfant plan, wide avenues and majestic buildings. Right? It is supposed to convey the power of our democracy. And so we have many buildings like that, maybe 12, Treasury, Justice, Commerce, that's across from my office. And those buildings were built for one purpose, federal workers. And so if they're not being used to their highest and best use, we need to figure out what to do with them. I point to this building because it was a museum. And through Mayor Bloomberg's incredible vision and investment and partnership with Johns Hopkins University, it was repurposed. And I have to say, as much as we love the museum, this is a higher and better use. And so we have to have that kind of vision and investment when we think about our grand buildings.
And you talked about that goal, adding 15,000 new residents downtown. So there's this emphasis on not just maybe converting buildings or repurposing buildings, but bringing new populations to the city and then also retaining them. So you can talk more about that strategy and how it's going.
Well, it's going well. Many of us were worried, and many cities lost population during the pandemic. People went back home, they moved in with parents, they moved abroad because they could work from anywhere. And we saw our population decrease. In the most recent revenue estimate that you referred to, we're seeing that bounce back. So our residents are coming back. People continue to love to live in cities, to be close to transportation, parks, culture, our fantastic public school systems where we have free pre-K starting at age 3, free, and it's universal. So those types of things attract people back to cities. And so the conversion strategy is a residential growth strategy because what we would be doing is adding housing.
And then there's another element to this too you've talked a lot about, which is sports.
Yeah.
You want DC to be the sports capital.
No, DC is the sports capital.
Well, I think people would love to hear more about that, and then, of course, to talk about the Washington Commanders and attracting them.
I would, but if you would, I'm happy to talk about sports. But part of our strategy that I have to mention before we go there is how we also are retaining employees in our government. And over the last years, there's been a great competition for talent. Everybody's trying to figure out the change of ways of work. And for the mayors who are running cities and have to provide incredible city services, we continue to need police officers, teachers, firefighters, 911 call takers, case managers. And there's just an incredible competition for that talent. So we have been very grateful to partner with Bloomberg Philanthropies, and we have an I-team that's really supported us in thinking about our talent pool. So we are happy that we're creating a new partnership with our HBCUs in DC. Those are historically Black colleges. And we have two fantastic leaders. First, for our university, the University of the District of Columbia, Dr. Maurice Eddington, who is here. For Dr. Eddington. As well as Howard University, often referred to as the Mecca in historically Black colleges, and their new leader, Dr. Ben Vinson. So thank you, Dr. Vinson, for being here. So what these great leaders they're partnering with us to create the HBCU Public Service Program, where we will hire apprentices, graduates from Howard and UDC, and guarantee that they will be matched in a good paying job in DC government, hopefully to grow their careers. So that's a great part of what we're doing.
Why was the focus on HBCU so important there?
It's so important for us. When I look at part of my job is to manage 34,000 people and to always make sure that we have the talent that we need. Now, one privilege that I have of longevity, and I am currently in my 9th year as being mayor, is really seeing how to grow leaders in the government. And I have a real focus on that from the cabinet level where I make appointments, but also from the entry level in attracting great people who want to work for us. What we learned is people come to DC, they come to universities like Howard and UDC and Johns Hopkins for that matter, because they want to be part of a public service. They have a change the world mindset. And you can do that in local government. And we want people to know they don't have to move away. They don't have to work for a think tank. They don't have to work for the feds. They can do that in local government. I fell in love with local government because of the speed. I can have an idea one day, get it funded, and implement it in a year's time. And you can't do that anywhere else.
Well, thank you so much for the time, Mayor.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.